Measles. So there's a big outbreak in West Texas. And this is pretty vicious. Gaines County, 48 total cases. Kids 5 to 17 getting the measles. It could kill you and scar you for life. 8% of kindergarten kids in Gaines County had vaccine exemptions. You can get a vaccine exemption, all right? And if you do, then you're more likely to get measles. Enter RFK Jr., who's already in as a Health and Human Services Secretary, and he's an anti-vax guy. Don't expect him to do that while he's in office. I don't. There'll be so much outrage if he does. I think he's going to just put that in the bottom drawer. But one thing he has to do, because he promised to do it, and it's the only reason he was there, is regulate the food in America. Now, you've heard some people say, oh, I don't want the food police. You need the food police. Because if you don't have them, you're going to die a painful death much earlier than you would have if the food police were out and about. So joining us out of New York City is a dietitian and nutritionist named Scott Keatley, who follows this very closely. So I've been on a jihad to alert Americans about sugar, the deleterious effects, and other junk food, which leads to obesity and diabetes and all kinds of disease. And the stats are unbelievable. I just threw them here, but let me pick them up. So in the United States in 2000, 25 years ago, 30% of adults were obese. Now it's 40%, 10% rise. And that's all bad diet, right?
Absolutely. That's coming from consuming too many calories, not expending enough. We're eating way more junk food than we ever had. And
Why? Why are we eating? Why? Everybody knows junk food is bad for you. Why are we eating more? Why?
Bill, it's delicious. I mean, it absolutely is. These companies have been working for 50 or 60 years on formulations of stuff, and it looks good. When you see these interesting colors, you want to eat it. It tastes good. It's got high amounts of fat.
Kids would fall for that, but adults, I mean, they know that look, cigarette smoking is a narcotic. It makes you calm down. But the government has succeeded in knocking out most cigarette smoking in this country by scaring people. That's what they did, right? And it worked. It worked.
They definitely scared people, but what we did is we replaced cigarettes with something else. If you look at all the scare tactics around cigarettes, at the same time you've got the rise of orange mocha frappuccinos from Starbucks. So we replaced a lot of those cigarettes with food.
All right, and that's a good point. But still, Americans aren't that cognizant of what they're doing, in my opinion. And then they go to the doctor and they get the blood test and they're type 2 diabetic already, and they're 40, 50 pounds overweight.
And they're absolutely not. They're not paying attention to what they're putting in their body, because you have to do it every day, 3 or 4 times a day.
And I'm not a cook. See, I don't cook. So I got to figure out what I'm going to eat. And 90% of my options are bad.
Yes.
I mean, unless I want just broccoli and you can't put any butter on it, or legumes, but if I want a steak, that's bad. If I want pasta, that's bad. So I think people give up because they're just...
If you go out there onto the internet, and you spoke about this earlier, if you go out there onto the internet, you will find every level of crazy. And everything in between. And so you'll find people who are saying steak's the worst thing for you and butter's the worst thing for you. And then people on the other side will say, well, don't eat any fruit because that's bad for you. And it becomes maddening out there. But
all right, let me stop you there.
Listed are excellent for you.
Let me stop you. What is the truth about fruit? So I like a glass of orange juice in the morning or grapefruit juice. I thought it was healthy, and now it's not because it's got sugar in it, right?
So there's going to be sugar in stuff, but it's the natural sugar versus the added sugar. So if you're having
what's the difference? What's the difference?
So molecularly, there's no difference, but it's what you're expecting. So if you're drinking orange juice and it's, great orange juice from South Florida, that's, nothing in it other than just juice, it's got a certain amount of sugar in it. But if you get the cheaper stuff, it's going to have an extra 5 or 10 grams of sugar, but you don't even really perceive that. You just know that.
I look at the label, though. I look at every label of what I put into my body. Look, you'd be surprised at how old I am. I got the same waist size I had in college, but it ain't easy, okay?
No.
It's not easy because there's a craving for dessert. I eat a couple of desserts a week, all right? I'm not a Spartan. But when I'm drinking my orange juice, I'm going, I think this is okay, but I'm not sure. So what I want, and I'm probably wrong on this, is the government to take a more proactive approach and almost put warning labels on the soft drinks that have 80 grams of sugar in them. I want warning labels, just like on the cigarette packs. Is that food police craziness?
That is not food police craziness. I think that we really need to define ultra processed foods and put those labels right on the front for people.
Why haven't they done it then? With obesity at 40%, 40 for American adults. Come on. Why haven't the government done
it? You got to follow the money. There's very, very powerful people and very powerful companies out there that put a lot of money into the pockets of people that represent us. And this is not just a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. This is an everybody issue because food is so prevalent. And we've got to have people that are making decisions who say, I don't want your money. I'm going to make decisions based on stuff that's good for the American people.
All right. And there's one thing else. A lot of people, I'm generalizing here, who are grossly overweight, obese, are poor. Don't have a lot of money. And the fast food stuff is cheap. Does that play into it?
So socioeconomic status definitely plays into it. If you don't have a whole lot of money, you probably don't have a whole lot of time. And I know that goes against what some people think. People think people are just sitting around doing nothing, but you're probably working a job or two jobs that are not the greatest in the world. And so you can sit there and I can sit there and we can look at these labels, but other people don't necessarily have that time. And when you get home late at night, you got to put something on the table.
Right.
Your kids need to eat.
It's convenient. You're tired. I can drive through the window. They throw the bag at me and it's garbage. All right. I hope RFK Jr., that's the, if he makes it a campaign and really wages this in an aggressive way, he'll save a lot of lives. And we appreciate your time very much tonight, Scott. Thank you. Okay, and I do that segment because we want you guys to be healthy. I've seen it. I know what diabetes is. I don't have it, thank God, but it is in my DNA, and I gotta tamp it down like crazy because a lot of it's heredity. And I'm not out in riding horseback for 5 hours a day and doing all that stuff. I'm sitting on my butt talking to you guys. So, but I don't want, I want everybody to be as healthy as they can be. Ivermectin, it's a name you've heard of, but forget the noise. This is about access to the medications you and your family really need. If you've had trouble getting it, you're not alone. That's why you need to check out All Family Pharmacy. As a licensed pharmacy in Florida, they make it easy to get ivermectin, mebendazole, and other medications that have become far too difficult to access. They'll provide the doctor's prescription, handle the whole process, ship it right to your door. It doesn't get much easier than that. Preparedness is not a luxury these days, it's a necessity. So don't wait for the system to crash down on you. Go to their new website, allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 for 10% off your order. Be proactive, take control, make sure your family is ready for whatever comes next. Joining us now is a man who I do business with, and I recently did a major interview with him for the Oxford Club, Alexander Green. He's living large in the Bahamas, celebrating his anniversary. And when you're a capitalist and you do well, you can go to the Bahamas and Right, and pay all that hotel tariff out there. But anyway, I think I've set you up in a way that's fair. And I want people to be very, very cautious. I'm a conservative investor. As you know, I've known Alex now, I don't know, early 90s, so 30 years almost. So look, first question. The stock market was pretty good under Biden. Why?
Well, let's be clear. The last 2 years of the stock market, 2023, 2024, were good under Biden. Let's go a little further back. 2022, when Bidenomics had a chance to kick in. Remember, he's elected in 2020. He starts implementing his plans in 2022 to 21. By 2022, we have the highest inflation in more than 40 years. We have interest rates that have soared, and the stock market, the S&P 500 declined 19% in 2022. The Nasdaq lost a third of its value. The bond market, with interest rates soaring, had its worst year in over 100 years, and even a conservative diversified portfolio of 60% stocks, 40% bonds had its worst year since 1940, pre-World War II. So Biden caused a lot of damage with his regulations, which shackled the oil and gas industry and businesses everywhere. His massive multi-trillion-dollar deficit spending, which he was warned by even by liberal economists like Larry Summers, you're going to stoke the highest inflation we've seen since the 1980s, and that's exactly what we saw. But business is resilient, business is adaptable, and by the 2023 and 2024, sales were up, profits were up, and the stock market was up again. But it wasn't due to Joe Biden. It was a recovery from Bidenomics, which even the Biden administration had to stop using because it had such a negative connotation.
Right, and then one of the big things was it started to drill oil again, and the oil harvesting got ramped up, and this is from Mr. Global Warming. Now, Trump has been in office 31 days. The Dow is up 1.2%, 531 points. NASDAQ up 285, 1.4%. But every day when I check, it's up, it's down, it's in, it's out. I mean, this isn't, anything could happen. And that worries me as an investor. How do I get over that worry?
Well, you begin to get over it by recognizing that volatility is the norm. I mean, stock markets, if you could get the kind of superior returns that equities deliver with the smooth upward climb of a passbook savings account, everybody would have all their monies in equity. Volatility is really just the price of admission when you own stocks. But let me also say, Bill, remember, the market started to take off before Trump took office. When the election results came in and they saw that the Kamala Harris was not going to be the victor and Donald Trump was going to be the new president, stocks took off immediately. Why did they take off? Because not only was it not the end of democracy, as we were told in some quarters, but people know that Trump is a businessman. And he knows that wealth is created in the private sector, not in the public sector. That's the private sector is where innovation happens. It's where productivity happens. And a administration has policies that can either provide a headwind, which makes it tougher for businesses to grow and investors to get ahead, or a tailwind, which makes it easier for businesses to prosper and for investors as well. And what Trump wants to do by cutting both the corporate and individual tax rates, putting money in consumers' pockets and giving companies more money to spend on research and development and new factories and new distribution channels and hire more employees and pay higher wages and better benefits, those are all positive for the economy. His policy of killing 10 regulations for every new one created, hugely positive. I remember a bank president saying one time that he was hiring more compliance officers than he was loan officers. Why? Because the government set so many regulations, the bank was scared to death it wasn't going to comply with all these regulations. And what does it do? It raises interest rates, it cuts into profits, it hurts stock market returns. So cutting tax rates, deregulating, unshackling the domestic oil and gas industry, cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse. These are all positive things for the economy, and that means it's positive for the stock market because if consumers are spending, if they're confident they're spending, and if they're spending, it's adding to corporate sales and ultimately corporate earnings. So I think that we're going to see a wonderful economy and stock market over the next 4 years.
Okay, but remember now that most Americans don't have a lot of reserve. So if they want to get into the market, some of them are borrowing money to get into it, which is what we saw in 1929. So, I understand that on paper it looks like the Trump years might be very good for investors, but it's not a lock. Now, one of the things that you do is look ahead in your newsletter, Alex. And AI is coming in huge. So what in general, and I don't want you to recommend any stocks. If you're interested in what Alex Green is doing, then you go to Oxford Club. Was it oxfordclub.com, right?
Electricclub.com, yes.
Okay. You go there and then you can get what they have. But generally speaking, AI and the forward-looking stocks is what you're analyzing now, correct?
Yes. Yeah, AI is a very big deal because it's going to increase productivity. I'm on AI every day, and before long, every student is going to have an AI tutor. Every businessman is going to have, or business person is going to have an AI consultant. Every physician is going to have an AI researcher and assistant. Everybody's going to have an infinitely smart, infinitely available, infinitely cheap source of not just news and information, but strategy and questions asked and problems solved. And this is going to be huge for the economy. That's why you're seeing all these big tech companies ramp up their AI spending, because they know the demand is huge. And in my view, 5 years from now, there'll be companies that are making full use of artificial intelligence and companies that don't exist anymore, because it's just that imperative. As big as the internet was in 1999 and 2000, AI is even bigger right now, and we're in the early stages. We're still top of the first inning.
And you're trying to ferret out the companies with the most potential, but again, it's not that easy to do. I don't do crypto stuff, and I'm not even going to talk about it. I just way too risky for me. That's a whole different thing.
Speculative asset.
Yeah, you don't do a lot of crypto stuff. When I read your stuff, there's not a crypto in there, right?
It's for gamblers, not investors.
Yeah, okay. All right, so bottom on this is that you believe there's opportunity in a Trump administration because it's a concentration of free market rather than government regulation. And when you recommend a stock that doesn't perform well, you tell everybody, but it's too late because we've lost the money. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right, Bill. If you're going to invest in stocks, you're going to have winners and you're going to have losers.
Right.
Ted Williams was the greatest hitter of all times. 60% of the time, he didn't get a hit. He still was the greatest. Every investor, Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, John Templeton, all the greats, they had losing positions. And so you go into it with the idea that you're buying a business, and if that business grows in profitability, the share price is going to rise and you're going to share in that profitability. And if the business stumbles or runs into competition that it can't meet effectively, it's going to work out poorly. We use, as you know, Bill, trailing stops. As long as
you put stops on the stock. So if it goes a certain level, it automatically sells. All right, Alexander Green, Oxford Club, oxfordclub.com. Appreciate it, Alex. Have fun in the Bahamas.
Always happy to be here. Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Last year, investors scored the highest profits in decades. Unfortunately, the rest of us were held back by stacks of bills and credit card debt. Well, Done with Debt has found a solution. They created a brilliant new strategy designed to tackle debt, put cash back into your hands, so you can finally save, invest, and live your life in comfort. Done with Debt goes head to head with credit card and loan companies. Their team of negotiators and legal experts work to significantly reduce your bills, eliminate interest, and erase penalties. Bottom line, Done with Debt helps turn crushing debt into financial freedom. But some of their strategies are time sensitive, so please don't wait. Get the life you deserve. Visit donewithdebt.com. Talk with one of their strategists, absolutely free. Visit donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. Are you feeling the impact of recent timeshare industry changes? Now more than ever, the costs of timeshare ownership far outweigh the benefits. My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you get out. Our listeners' positive feedback demonstrates why I've supported the company for years. For more than a decade, they have helped over 20,000 owners get out of the timeshare. Their exclusive options can help you get out faster and easier, more than any other option in the country. They are the only company that will give you a written guarantee and release you from your timeshare in a specific time frame. With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, thousands of 5-star reviews, customer service is their top priority. For free consultation and a guaranteed solution, please call 855-551-7066. That's 855-551-7066, or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. All right, J.D. Vance is in Germany, causing trouble. So the vice president goes over Munich, beautiful town, by the way. If you have to go to Germany, and it's a nice country, Munich is the best city. Bavaria. And he goes over and he scolds not only the Germans, but all of Europe. This is the vice president. He scolds them. He says, you're not putting enough money into the collective defense. The United States is not going to continue spending all of this money to defend you. You got to put more money in. Okay? And when conservative Europeans try to get certain things done, you shut them down. You don't let them talk. And you're violating their freedom of speech. This is Vance. Okay? And he's carrying out what, excuse me, Trump wants. Got it? Vance, Munich, Europe's got to put more money in collective defense. It's got to lighten up on dissenting thought. If they're conservative groups, they deserve to be heard. Vance. Enter Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Used to be Little Marco, now he's Big Marco. He goes on the CBS program, morning program, Sunday morning program, Face the Nation, with liberal journalist Margaret Brennan. And this becomes a major controversy. Go.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany.
Absolutely true. Historical fact, just like I was telling you about FDR and JFK. Now, Margaret Brennan is a very well-educated person. University of Virginia, and she got a Fulbright. She was studying in Jordan. She's got a good resume, been around Washington, chief foreign affairs correspondent for CBS News. But Margaret Brennan does not know much about the Third Reich. She doesn't. You couldn't make that statement if she did. Free speech had nothing to do with the Holocaust. Hitler wiped out free speech in 1934 by first the brown shirts, the SA, and then when he got to be chancellor, the SS and the Gestapo. All dissent was punished in Germany. There wasn't any debate about the Holocaust, no free speech about it. In fact, Hitler didn't even articulate the Holocaust ever. All right, until the final solution. He wasn't even at the meeting because he knew that was a war crime. So Margaret Brennan doesn't know. And she's one of CBS News' main anchors. And this is my point. I've been in the business now 50 years. The younger people, they don't know. And when you listen to them, they have most of them, 80% of them, have no blanket idea what they're talking about, particularly when it gets to history and what happened in the past. They don't know. And it's dangerous. And the executives running these corporations, they're exceedingly dumb. They're stupid people. So they don't know. And that's how you have the collapse of journalism in this country. They just don't know. And they don't care to know, by the way. You think Margaret Brennan has read Killing the SS? Or Killing Patton? Those are the two books that deal with Nazi Germany. Or no, she hasn't read them. And she won't read them because she's not interested. But whoever told Ms. Brennan to say that, because I don't think she said it on her own, I think the thing was written for her. It's a catastrophe. All right, Canadian. So I'm watching the hockey tournament with Finland, Sweden, Canada, and USA. And Saturday night, the USA team plays the Canadians in Montreal. Roll it. Okay. Now, what did you expect? If I were a Canadian, I would have booed too. Yeah, you don't like Trump saying he's going to be his 51st state. He's going to evaporate the country. Of course they're going to boo. If Trudeau said, hey, I don't want the United States to exist any longer, then they played, oh, Canada, I'd boo, you'd boo, everybody'd boo. So the press go, oh, what do you expect to happen? Now, the Americans won 3-1, and they play Sweden tonight, and then they play for the championship on Thursday. And Americans got the best team, but that doesn't mean they're going to win. But that's what happened. Smart Life. So we reported that the Surgeon General says that if you're a boozer, a regular drinker, you have a much higher rate to get cancer. Esophagus, colon, larynx, liver, throat. Okay? And breast cancer as well for you ladies. So if you're drinking on a regular basis, 100,000 cancer cases directly linked to booze, 20,000 deaths every year. This is Surgeon General. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Okay. So they took a poll, USA Today, says, based on this, are you going to cut back on your drinking? 86% say no. Nope. 13% say, yeah, we're going to cut back a little. And that's because booze, if you're a regular drinker, you're thinking about it. And you want it. Now, that doesn't mean you're an alcoholic, okay? But it means that it's an important part of your life. Right? Am I right? And yeah, I'm going to keep doing it. Now, I predict pot's going to emerge as worse. Pot is more addictive than alcohol. Everybody doesn't think that, but it is. So powerful. You're putting that right in your brain, okay? What do you see in 10 years? The massive social problems and physical problems we have from pot. The Pope hospitalized, pretty serious respiratory problems, 88 years old. Now, I wrote a column called The Pope versus the Founding Fathers, and it's gotten a lot of play on BillO'Reilly.com. It's about migration, how Pope Francis sees it, and what the Constitution of the United States says. And they're not compatible. So we wish the Pope the best. I think he's a good man. I want you to read the column, okay? You'll, believe me, you won't be boring. And then let me know what you think. Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com. Thank you for watching the No Spin News. To watch the full episode anytime on BillO'Reilly.com, please sign up to become a premium or concierge member. Visit BillO'Reilly.com to sign up and start watching today.